Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, brothers, and sisters. Welcome back to another round of the Armed Forces Virtual Race Challenge. We head stateside for our randomly chosen track of the season. We threw the dice, well, spun the wheel a little more accurately, following Snetterton last week, and the wheel landed on a very tight and twisty classic in the iRacing calendar lineup. It is Lime Rock Park. This is going to be really quite fascinating. It's very short. We're looking at under a minute lap from the entire field. Really, really narrow and very fast indeed. That is what the track looks like from its aerial view. And this is going to be really something quite spectacular, I feel. My name's Chris Buxton. I'll be one of your commentators throughout tonight's festivities. Tom Bryant in charge of the cameras. We welcome you back to the box, good sir, along with the wonderful, wonderful Scottish sensation that is John Munro.
The real sensation here, Chris, is Lime Rock Park. I mean, I was so excited when the wheel stopped on Lime Rock Park because it's a fast track. As you say, it's narrow. The aerial shot there, or the track map, doesn't do it justice because the elevation changes here at Lime Rock are what make it so special. It's a bumpy circuit as well. There's camber turns. There's plenty to think about. In terms of racing as well, we're going to see big slipstream battles. Lots of high-speed stuff, as you say. There's even a bit of airtime at some point on the circuit because we are using the old-school Lime Rock Park layout without any of the modern chicanes. So basically, it's going to be an absolute riot, and I cannot wait.
Very much so. Now, I will put my hands up here. I have never commentated this circuit, so I will be very much following your lead on this one, John. You are much more familiar with this track than I, but from what I've observed during the practice session, it being such a short lap, the times are very, 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 very close. Several drivers even being within a few thousandths of each other. So we are in for some really quite tense action, I think. If you're a good defensive driver and you start well, then you're in for a really good haul of points in theory. But it being a very tight track, that is superb. And that is not just a one-off event. We saw that's Tom Stevens doing that, and he did that several times in the practice as well. And you'll see that in quite a few laps. Some people will back off a little bit over that jump. You were telling me earlier, John, that it's a little bit akin to Cadwell Park's mountain, except for you're not coming out of a near dead stop corner. You are hitting this at pace.
You certainly are. I mean, we're going to see it happening in the race as well. The drivers coming through the turn 5 right-hander, the uphill, and towards the rise that you saw that picture of Tom Stevens' Porsche there. And yeah, the cars will get airborne. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, these drivers are going to be going for the fastest lap times possible. Lime Rock Park is all about momentum. There's no real slow-speed corners. The slowest is actually the opening turn, which isn't really that slow at all. And then it's just such a fast run from that point onwards. So you're really trying to keep the momentum up. Whatever the fastest way around that right-hander is and through the exit is the way that these drivers are going to take. And if it means going flat out over that rise and catching 4 wheels of air, then that's what's going to happen. So we could very well see the top drivers and probably most of the field getting some airtime as they exit that corner. And it's going to be amazing to watch. We'll also probably see a high chance of shunts at different points in the track. I'm not just talking about turn 5. Turn 6, very easy to go out, run wide onto the grass in the exit there and have an incident going down the hill towards the final corner. The final corner itself is not quite flat out in these cars, I don't think, but it's going to be very much on the edge, and again, very, very easy to run wide, easy to bounce off a curb in the wrong way and spit you back over to the right-hand side. Obviously, you're going to see it very soon in qualifying, but it's just such an excellent circuit to race these GT4s around, and I think the caliber of drivers we've got in this series just makes it an instant classic.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree there that we've enjoyed some wonderful racing from a number of our returning drivers as well as the new names joining this series this season. So on screen now is the calendar. So we are on round 5 here at Lime Rock Park. We've had 4 very different but very, very, very entertaining rounds. So we go from very, very tight and twisty Lime Rock Park to much more flowing Spa-Francorchamps next time out in the Ardennes Forest, and then back to tight and twisty and Knock Hill. I must admit, there were several tracks I was really looking forward to, but I was looking forward to all of the calendar, in fairness, as I always do. But there were several tracks that really jumped out at me before the season began. Knock Hill was one of them, and yeah, that is going to be a little bit akin to Lime Rock Park in some ways, in the way that it's very narrow. The undulation changes are really, really quite something. From a sim racing perspective, I adore Knock Hill. It's so much fun. We head to Navarra, again, another iRacing classic as we head into April. Donington and Brands to round out the season. Let's have a look at the championship standings, and Ryan Martin reasserting his top spot dominance by 6 points over Chris Pawley. I say dominance because he won both rounds last week. It was in very much a league of one, but the week before didn't really go his way at Alton Park. So maybe tight and twisty tracks are not quite as comfortable for Ryan Martin as he would like. Chris Pawley is not with us. He did allude last week that he probably would not be here for this week. So the former championship leader not present, Chris Pawley. But Pete Plasto is definitely here. And so he sits in third with Adam Barron, who was top of the time charts a little bit early on, but he's just been knocked off by the Flying Scotsman of Ryan Martin. Tom Stevens, the Flying Stevens, in 5th. David Wrench with podium last time out in Snetterton. In 6th, Dan Cross. 7th, James King. 8th, Dan Barris 9. And Bradley Kropp rounds out our top 10. Well, a little bit one-sided for the Royal Air Force. That is mainly because the Royal Air Force is most numerically represented. Over half the field are actually Royal Air Force. But that being said, we very much appreciate all of the service and all of the effort from all of our serving and veteran members of the armed forces. We very much appreciate their efforts, whether it's big or small or whatever area they are in. Right, should we head to trackside, John?
I think we should, and let's see some more flying cars. I mean, both metaphorically and literally. Ryan Martin currently leading the standings, and just on cue there through the exit of turn 5 there is our championship leader Ryan Martin off the back of his double victory at Snetterton. We saw a new Ryan at Snetterton, self-proclaimed new Ryan. He was a bit calmer. He was going to make his way through the field a little bit more carefully. He was not going to make mistakes. He was just going to be calculated, but still very, very quick. And to be fair, he did end up doing that at Snetterton. That's exactly how he played it. It was a sensible, mature performance from our championship leader, and he's going to be looking for more of the same at Lime Rock. The problem being, when you get drivers losing the car right in front of you, that might have been Matty Chambers, was it? I cannot remember.
Possibly.
Anyway, it possibly was, but yeah, you're going to have that at Lime Rock. So here, it's going to be a case of remaining calm once again. Martin, though, at the moment, looking good in qualifying. I did notice, though, Chris, during the practice session, that the top 12 were covered by about 9/10 of a second, so it's mega close. Yes, it's a short lap here at Lime Rock, but it just means that one little mistake from any of our top drivers, or one, lap out of nowhere from the drivers who are normally in the midfield, and we should see a shaken up order.
Yeah, or you're caught up, as Ryan Martin nearly was, in someone else's issue, because it being a very narrow track means there's very little space to to avoid someone else's incident. Can we just ride back on board with Ryan? This is a really stupid thing I just spotted, but Tom, if we could switch back on board with Ryan, the previous shot that we had, if it all goes wrong for Ryan Martin, he can actually claim he's car number 98. If you watch the shadow of his car number as it comes back into shot, just watch on the right-hand side. There we go. He's not actually 86. He's 98. So he can actually pick which number he is.
That's not where I thought you were going with that when you watched Ride on Board with Ryan Martin again.
Oh, there we go. We just caught some air there.
Shall I talk through a lap of Lime Rock then, if we stay on board?
Please do.
Ryan's getting a lot of airtime here, but he's championship leader, so he's earned it. So just coming through the last corner now, we'll see what Ryan does. So onto the pit straight, the Sam Posey straight. This is the only breathing room you really get at Lime Rock, and it's not the longest pit straight. You're going to be on the brakes just around about the number 2 board as you then change down a couple of gears. You want to hit the curb on the right. It's a really, really long sweeping right-hander. You run out wide in the middle, cut back to the right for that second curb, so it's a double apex, then immediately haul yourself back to the right as you prepare for this banked turn 2, and it's another one with a double apex, kind of rolls away in the middle, and you got to stay left again because it sweeps straight into turn 3 and then 4, so very much a flow circuit. You need to find that rhythm, find that balance, and just bounce from corner to corner. Then you've got this very fast uphill right-hander, turn 5, use the curb on the inside. This is where the cars get air, and you can see Ryan just about getting air in that heavy Mercedes. Then you've got another fast right-hander, more curb on the inside, attack this one, watch out for the grass on the exit as you then plough down the hill towards turn 7 out of West Bend, and then this is the frightening one, a little bit of a lift on the way in, back of the power. Again, you're just being careful to watch for that grass, and you can just see how high intensity this lap is at Lime Rock. It's like you're going directly from one fast corner to another, you're right on the limit of adhesion, you're constantly close to a mistake, and it's just such a pleasure to drive this circuit.
New fastest lap of the session by Ryan Martin on the lap we rode with in 4. That was a 51.76 for the mighty Scotsman. Bradley Crock jumping up into 4th position now in the Aston Martin. Interesting to see as well, the top 4 positions, all different marks. So it's Mercedes, from BMW, from Porsche, from Aston at the moment, as we watch Peter Plasto. Second place Aston Martin at the moment, sitting in 5th position, just half a second off that top time at the moment. Know how quick Peter is. He's always determined to find that little bit, but again, bearing in mind how close everyone else is. Once again, Ryan Martin just demonstrating he has a secret that nobody else seems to have. Whatever it is, an extra gear, a few more horses. Although I'm not, and there we go. There we saw the nose of the Aston lifting off there. I'm not sure extra horses are really going to help you here, because there's no very, very long straight to get all the horses galloping. It's just whatever the secret Ryan Martin has, he's able to just have such an advantage in his pocket. He's 4/10 ahead of Chris Boland, that sits in 2nd position, our sole BMW returning to us this week. We didn't see Chris last time out. But then everyone else is just a matter of hundreds from the next car, with the exception of the gap between Tom Stevens and Mark Gladwell, 11th to 12th.
It's exceptionally close, as we'd expect. And as I say, yeah, Ryan Martin's just got something in hand, and it's just skill, experience, whatever it might be. And of course, bear in mind, this is Ryan's first ever race here at Lime Rock. Or this is he hadn't heard of the circuit before last week when the circuit was drawn, so I'm sure he'll have been out practicing hard and preparing for this one. But he's certainly showing that he's ready for it. I don't think it's going to faze him, the fact that this is his first race at Lime Rock, because if he can get out in front and run away at the sharp end, he won't need to worry about where where to overtake and where to defend here. As you can see, that last corner, that's excellently demonstrated by Adam Barron in the background and Jack Kajewski, both running wide, touching the grass. Full commitment through there. But obviously, Chris, it's double headers tonight as well, which means reverse grid. So whatever happens in the first race, the drivers are going to have to work to pick up 2 great results, regardless of where they qualify and finish here. So it's going to be interesting to see if anyone can get a bit closer. We did see more times in the 51s during practice, so we've got 7 minutes still to go. We saw, I think, 4 or 5 drivers break that 52-second barrier. So I do expect the likes of Barron, the likes of potentially David Wrench looking quite quick as well, and obviously Boland and Plasto to get a bit closer to Martin as Barron loses the rear, and he's going to just touch the tyre barrier. Pete Plasto managing to avoid him. We also, didn't we? We saw some very interesting lines into turn 1 from Pete Plasto during practice, and we got a nice wee glance at a gnome as well.
We did, yes. There is an additional marshal out in this, which had me in absolute stitches when the camera just suddenly cut to me. Hopefully Tommy, our cameraman, is able to actually bring up the shot that had me in absolute stitches. You know, what do you not expect trackside? There's somebody parked on the right-hand side. That is Bradley Kropp, the 27 Aston Martin, that is taking his own spectator spot on the outside of turn 2. So yes, we're going through our usual pre-broadcast preparations. Yeah, just acclimatizing ourselves with the actual second. There it is. Just what do you not expect to see at a marshal's post by a gnome?
If I saw that gnome around the corner, I would turn around and walk away fast.
That's one determined gnome, isn't it? I mean, he's ready to go. He's armed with his shovel. There's nothing stopping the man. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it's one of those nights today, you know, that had me giggling, it really did. And I make no apologies for it.
Chris,
right.
Our reigning champ in the BMW heading up through turn 5, and you can see there, that's a good view of the elevation change. It's very, very steep uphill. It is very steep. You know, I said earlier, or you said earlier that we were talking about Cadwell Park. It's just different because it's so much faster on the approach. And I think a lot of people will know this circuit just as one of the kind of introductory circuits to the iRacing service back in the day. It was the kind of the main staple of the MX5 Rookie Championship along with Okayama. So it became very popular through that, but obviously it's very popular in real life too. There's a lot of big series still race at Lime Rock Park, including the likes of IMSA with their GT program, and we've seen the likes of American Le Mans series in the past racing around here, albeit with a chicane or two to just slow down the speed of traffic, because you don't want prototypes taking off up a hill. That's not great when there's trees on the left hand side, but it's just such a brilliant track, the way it flows, the way the corners kind of move from one to the next, and you really have to get your line right for the first part in order to get the second part right. And when you nail all three, especially that first sector, it's just excellent. Boland though running a bit wide as he takes off in the BMW. Only 4 minutes to go in this qualifying session, and the man is currently sitting P2, is certainly pushing to try and get closer to Ryan Martin out in front.
You've got to have some stones to take that corner absolutely flat. You really have got to have. You need to have your bravery pills when you're going absolutely flat out and seemingly going airborne into the wall. And you know, someone is going to make that mistake, or someone is going to be forced into a mistake, and then everyone else is going to have to avoid it. It's things like that that. Oh, on cue, someone has gone for a bit of a wander. That was David Wrench. Oh, you can't park there, sir. My goodness me, that corner. I think it was Peter Plasto that was coming past him. Did you see Tom Stevens working his way? I beg your pardon, it's Adrian Warmington that was
or Darren Barris. I think there's a few with similar liveries. Someone got caught.
Yeah. Oh, good spot, Mr. John. That was indeed Darren Barris, and he said, "Well spotted, Mr. Barris." There.
Mr. John will do.
Mr. John, yeah. Oh goodness me. So I'm still giggling over the gnome. You know that's my brain. Oh, Money Chambers. So we saw earlier on the pink accented Mercedes get a little bit sideways. Still pressing on in 7th. Was looking inside the top 3 during practice, but hasn't quite been able to rediscover that pace. Interesting, isn't it? Because, like you say, John, we saw several times in the sub 52s, but only Ryan Martin has managed to reproduce it now.
It's interesting. I wonder if it's higher track temperature we're just hearing from our producer. And that could definitely do it. That makes a big difference on iRacing. But yeah, I mean, ignore Ryan Martin for a second. Sorry, Ryan. You had your moment earlier. You had 3 laps. Ignore him. Look at 2nd down to 11th. I mean, that's incredible. The whole field there, no one split by more than 600ths of a second. Or, well, 7. Actually, the front was split by 700ths of a second. My apologies. But yeah, you get the point. Everyone's very, very, very close. So we've got this massive train going on. And if Martin's the only one without a slipstream, then, you know, the rest of the field could potentially hang on to the back of him. Obviously, I'm getting ahead of myself here. We're still to experience lap 1. We've still got 2 minutes left of this qualifying session as someone goes grass cutting. But yeah, I mean, it's just incredibly close between everyone else, which again just emphasizes how good a job, as we keep saying, Ryan Martin is doing out in front in that Mercedes.
That was Mark Gladwell that was taking the scenic route, I think getting out of Bradley Crop's way. In fairness, he just kind of exited at turn 2. Into the pits comes from Bradley Crop. There is David Wrench. We saw having a very sideways moment on the exit of turn 4 earlier on. So less than, or coming up to a minute left. I think anyone that's in the pit lane is not likely to, if you're not coming out of the pit lane now, you're probably not going to. With now less than a minute to go, I think anyone that is deemed to be in the pit is going to be staying there. David Wrench really flying through that last corner. Does he improve on his current 7th position? Not this time. 52.6 on that last circuit, but of course we'll have the opportunity to finish this lap as we look at Ben Weston in the 66 Porsche. 14th at the moment, 53.0 for him, which is still only 700th off the back of John Finch, who's 600th off the back of Mark Gladwell. Does look like we've got a bit of a divide, sort of almost top half versus bottom half. The top 11, as you say, John, very, 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 very close. And then there's a bit of a gap from Jack Ajewski in 11th to Mark Gladwell in 12th, about 0.4 of a second, roughly the same gap as Ryan Martin is to Chris Boland. And then everyone behind has got a very similar amount of very, very short gaps behind. I think Sean Watson was a little bit of a late joiner to this particular event. Adrian Warmington was a very late joiner to this to tonight's festivities, or certainly in this server. So some drivers with a bit less track time potentially under their belts. Checkered flag is out, so we'll see. Can anybody mix it up amongst the top group? We will see.
Trunwitt using all of the road there. Barron on a fast lap coming through behind, but Trunwitt, obviously, if he's on a fast lap, is entitled to finish that lap, so we'll see what happens here. Just a couple of quick mentions as well of people that are missing. We've got no Dan Cross racing tonight, but he is watching the live stream, wishing good luck to Tom Stevens, who's been battling all season. We've got no James King as well tonight in the McLaren, and of course no Chris Pauly, amongst others. So plenty of drivers missing, but also plenty of great drivers on the grid. And Adam Barron once again using all of the road. I wonder if that lap's legal. Looks like he's going to make it across the line, but it's going to be no improvement. Boland and Martin both in the pit lane, so that's probably going to do it, Chris, for this qualifying session. And it looks like we have the usual 3 together, Boland, Plasto and Barron, and the usual man on top as well with Ryan Martin P1.
Absolutely so. So running through the grid from top to bottom, 18 cars taken to qualifying for first race tonight of Lime Rock Park. Ryan Martin and Chris Boland. So our current champion in the form of Boland and champion-elect so far in Ryan Martin take the front row. Pete Plasto and Adam Barron will have row 2 with Bradley Crop and Matty Chambers on row 3. David Wrench and Tom Stevens have row 4 with Matthew Forrest and Jack Trunwitt rounding out the top 10. Jack Ajewski and Mark Gladwell have row 6. John Finch and Ben Weston will be starting on row 7. Adrian Warmington and Steve Wardle row 8. Dan Barris and Sean Watson will be rounding out the field on row 9. So, like I said earlier, John, you're a bit more familiar with this track than I. Being that turn 1 is the heaviest braking zone from the start-finish straight, which you are at full crank for quite a while, even in these cars. What are the overtaking opportunities like here?
Now non-existent, to be honest, Chris. The only thing is that turn 1 is where you can set it up. So if you can get down the inside of turn 1, maybe force a mistake from your rival, then you can have an amazing sequence of 3 or 4 corners side by side trying to get the run, because obviously it's one of those circuits where the inside becomes the outside becomes the inside. There's plenty of chopping and changing opportunities, and you can see some great battles. But if you've got similar pace to the car in front of you, if you're in line, the only place that you can really begin to unsettle them and start to make a move is really into turn 1. And even then, it's a tricky overtaking spot, because yes, it's a high speed straight into the slowest corner in the circuit, but it's such a long, wide open corner, and it takes a little while to tighten up. Basically, you're trail braking all the way in, so really it's not a big heavy stop into like a high angle rotation, for example. You're kind of slowing down a couple of gears, and then you're already turning in and you're trail braking all the way through into the corner, a little bit like maybe you could say a wee bit like Coram last week at Snetterton in that sense, where the entrance of the corner is not necessarily a big overtaking opportunity. It's really what happens throughout the rest of it. So it is a really tricky place to overtake, but what you will see at Lime Rock is you will see mistakes. You'll see drivers pushing the limits. You'll see drivers maybe falling off the edge, touching the grass in the exits of corners and losing time, and that is where you're going to see overtaking opportunities. It's a bit like Alton. It's not necessarily one where you can force the move. It's one where you need to force your opponent to make a mistake and then strike when the iron's hot.
All right, so this being an older iRacing circuit, it is a full lap behind the safety car. We now come up to what is certainly going to spell some automotive death for some cars. Come over the hot at turn 5. Is it 4 or 5? It's 4, isn't it? Oh, it is 5. Yes, excuse me. Now into our penultimate turn. So from here right the way through to turn 1, the cars are pretty much flat out as long as they get the approach into the final turn right. The pace car then allowed to disappear off a little bit. Ryan Martin keeping the field nicely bunched up. The lights to come on to signify the beginning of our first race here at Lyme Park, round number 5. As we hit the halfway stage of the season, we are racing here at Lyme Rock Park. Again, Ryan Martin getting a wonderful start in the Mercedes. Boland and Plasto side by side. The Aston Martin has nudged ahead of the BMW and takes second position, nearly runs into the back of Ryan Martin indeed, as they come out of turn 2 into 3. So this wonderful roller coaster, this stream of corners that these drivers have to deal with. It's Mercedes from Aston from BMW, it's Martin from Plasto from Boland, your top 3.
Just keeping it nice and tidy through the opening sector, and it's kind of as you were in a big line. You've got Martin, Plasto, Boland and Barron, and it was almost a move as we see Matty Chambers getting a little bit out of shape as he heads up over the hill, currently in P6. And this is where the drivers are going to have to settle into rhythm here. You'll see the slipstream kick in. Obviously, the big cue here, it looks like Plasto's not going to go anywhere behind Martin. He's going to stay firmly on the rear of that Mercedes as long as he can. And then Boland's going to try and do the same. But everyone's going to be looking, as Jack Trunwitt's actually spinning off into the pit lane. So Trunwitt lost it on the exit of the final corner. He's got to be careful, but he's done a good job there. He'll get it turned round and onwards, but he's actually going to head straight for the pit lane, is he? So potential damage there for Jack Trunwitt. We'll see if we can get a look at what happened. I'm going to guess he lost the rear on the exit of the final corner. But yeah, I think it would suit Boland here not to fight with Barron. I think they're going to have to work together to push on, and there he is. Trunwitt losing the rear, and that's a big hit into the tyre barrier. Lucky he didn't spin back into the path of everyone else, and a real shame for Trunwitt after a relatively strong qualifying.
Great shame indeed, but an unforced error sees the number 24 Mercedes drop all the way to the back of the field, but the head of the field is already working its way to complete another lap. It's going to be a lot of laps in this race. Adam Barron has wandered a little bit wide. You can see on that camera shot from that last corner. Here comes Matty Chambers on the back of Bradley Kropp. Has a look on the inside line coming down towards turn 1. Oh, there goes the Aston. There goes the Aston. That was an unforced error as well. Bradley Kropp just dropped the tail. Oh, and there's John Finch. It's ironic you showed us that clip of everybody sliding off. Okay, that was in the wet at this particular track, and we've had 2 Aston Martins trying to do exactly the same thing. Down into turn 1. Here's Chris Boland under pressure from Adam Barron. Oh, we've seen these two cross swords so many times in the past. But it's Porsche versus BMW for the last spot on the podium. They're already over a second behind the lead 2 as Martin and Plastow, the Aston and the Mercedes, are both just glued to each other. And Barron, did he have a run on Boland? Or I think the BMW was a little bit too wide as Chris Boland manages to keep that persistent Porsche at bay for now.
Wet in 2x2 at the moment. By the way, I never thought I would say that John Finch's bright green Aston would be the most effective camouflage livery on the whole pack, but it just was there heading into the grass at turn 1. Perfectly coming into shot, but he'll obviously return to the circuit and not lose too much time there. Or I should say not have any damage, but definitely losing a bit of time. Yeah, it looks like Plasto and Martin have gone here. Boland's lost a bit of time. Barron's struggling to stick to the back of Boland, but it's Chambers actually now who moves up into P4, so Barron's maybe made a mistake there heading up the hill, and through goes Matty Chambers, up from 6th to 4th in the opening few laps here. So it's been a really strong start from Chambers in that 46 car. So let's have a look at the replay here. So Barron, oh, did he get into the wall, or he got a bit loose anyway? He got close to the wall, that's for sure. And Chambers, this is what I'm talking about, made the mistake from Barron, and suddenly Chambers is through. Meanwhile, Barron now on the defence from David Wrench, that is, in P6, and he's going to go deep. So Wrench is going to get down the inside. He managed to do well there, Barron, to keep it off the grass, because as soon as you go on the grass there, you're sliding very wide indeed. But through goes Wrench, so a couple of mistakes now from Adam Barron, and he's not having a great race here, now down to 6th place.
I didn't see him hit the wall at turn 5, but I wonder whether that's just shaking his confidence a little bit. Tom, our camera operator, is saying he wasn't certainly hit it either. But they're kind of just shaking his confidence a little bit, unless he's had another incident that we haven't seen, because suddenly that early pace, the car looks in the correct shape. So I don't think, he hasn't got any damage on the car, just maybe just shaking his confidence a little bit, pushed that tiny bit too hard, just needs to resettle down, which is easy for us to say, especially this kind of relentless assault of corners that this track always offers. As Jack Ajewski is sizing up a move on Matt Forrest coming down into turn one. The Mercedes can't overcome the Aston at the moment. Ryan Martin now starting to get into his stride. He's opened up 7/10 of a second. This is somewhat the Ryan Martin you alluded to earlier, John, where he's just getting himself settled into the early laps, not doing anything daft, and then just opening up the pace when he needs to. So he's almost a second ahead of Pete Plasto. As Bradley Cromp's in trouble again, he's gone off circuit, the 27 Aston. We didn't see where, there he is. So that is down at turn 3 of 4. So didn't see what led up to that. Oh, that's our McLaren. That's Steve Wardle that has gone off in the number 22 car. So we did think that this would be, it's not necessarily atrocious, but there's a lot of going, well, okay, that's just two cars running off in tandem there. That's Forrest and Ajewski in their battle for 8th position. Fastest lap of the race gone to Adam Barron, so he suddenly rediscovered that pace, just maybe settled himself down again and gotten into the baton. There is that unforced error from Bradley Crump, and then the Steve Wardle having a spin out of sympathy in the McLaren.
It's whenever Bradley Crump makes a mistake, someone else follows him, and easily distracted. But that's the thing at Lime Rock; it's very easy to happen. It's just that weight transfer shifting from left to right. But 2 mistakes for Crop. Real shame, because I thought Crop did a great job in qualifying. We saw him right towards the sharp end in the reverse grid race at Thruxton. But since then, he's kind of been mired in the midfield. So it was good to see him up front again for a little while, but then he's made 2 big mistakes now and unfortunately dropped back to the, now properly to the rear of the field in 15th place, but he will live to fight another day, thankfully. Meanwhile, David Wrench now under pressure from the charging Adam Barron, who's on that comeback. I mean, the damage has been done here for Adam. He's only got 9 minutes left to try and recover anything, and he's not going to get anywhere, past where he was at the start. And also, I think Martin's probably gone now, isn't he? I think that's 1 second gap from Plasto will break the slipstream, and I mean the gap is now 8/10, so I wouldn't say gone. It's still only 1 mistake away from a battle, but looking good for Martin as well. You can see there Plasto just not quite close enough to fully utilise that slipstream, and this is normally where we see Martin stretch his legs at his best. Plasto clearly trying though, as he uses all of the road out on the exit there of turn 5.
Adam Barron getting very close once again to the back of David Wrench, who's up 2 positions from where he started. Darren Berris is up 5 positions from where he first started. So Darren Berris was near the back of the field when we started. Now up to 12th position in his Aston Martin. Adam Barron can't just focus forwards. He's got Tom Stevens in the number 4 Porsche behind. That is determined to improve on his position. Look how close Matty Chambers is to the back of Chris Boland as well. That battle for the last podium spot, it may well have changed combatants, but Chris Boland is still under all kinds of pressure. This time from Matty Chambers. Pete Plasto doing what he can to stay in touch with Ryan Martin. We saw earlier on just how hard the number 312 Aston Martin is pushing. Moment it is not closing down on that gap. Was that a bit of a tail moment there for the BMW? Not sure, but Chris Boland keeps it in check, but he's got to be keeping an eye behind on where Matty Chambers is going. That Mercedes looks set to make a move, but where and when is going to be the question.
Absolutely, he's going to have to put the pressure on. Meanwhile, while they sort themselves out, we've got Wardle now on the comeback, coming up towards the back of Sean Watson in the Aston Martin, as they take the rise there at turn 5, not quite using all of the road there, keeping safe margins. When the front of the car lifts up, obviously you lose your steering, but Wardle obviously after his spin will be looking to come back through the field. Watson in front looking a little bit vulnerable at the moment, and it's Wardle who's got the pace by about 7/10 of a second per lap over that purple Aston, so we'll see if he can make a move on this, the 10th lap of the race. Plasto keeping the gap down to 7/10 to Ryan Martin, so we'll keep one eye on that. Warmington and Barris right on the back of Gladwell, so we've got a 3-car scrap for P10 as well, and that's actually what we're seeing right now. So to the inside goes Warmington and through goes Gladwell. Great exit there from the Royal Air Force driver, and he moves up into the top 10. Will Barris follow through as well? Coming from the back of the grid there is Darren Barris, so he's now looking for P11. We're going to head onto the Samposi Straight. This is the one real overtaking opportunity that you can muster yourself. So Beres is going to take a little look to the inside, but I don't think he's close enough to have a dive here. You can see the braking zone doesn't last very long before you have to get into that apex. And from that point on, you just hope you haven't understeered out and you can keep the car nice and tight. And it looks like everyone has done a good job there. So Gladwell, Warmington, Beres remains exactly the same for the time being. I just wanted to give a shout out as well to Matty Chambers. We saw him earlier. What a drive it's been from Chambers. Wrench obviously also up 2 spots, but the two of them have just come through the field with good pace, and now right on the back of Chris Boland as well. So we could see a podium potentially for Chambers or Wrench.
Could well do. Yeah, we do still have the familiar names up top, but like you said earlier, John, that is one mistake from completely changing, and one mistake we would be very, very costly here as we continue to watch this enthralling battle. 2 Mercs and an Aston involved in this battle to be last man inside the top 10, currently occupied by Mark Gladwell in the number 80 Mercedes. We ride on board with the number 40 Aston Martin. Oh no, that's one for me on the commentator curse count. Mark Gladwell. That's a shame we haven't had too many opportunities to talk about Mark Gladwell. I haven't seen an awful lot of him in the season. He was doing really well there in 10th, but exactly as we said, there's one mistake completely changes the complexion of a battle, as we just saw Matty Chambers pushing slightly too hard, but right behind him is then Adam Barron bringing David Wrench with Adam Barron and Tom Stevens all in hot pursuit. So this, what was a couple of battles, is now looking like a quintet, all arguing for the last podium spot. It was a little bit wide for the BMW, not quite, possibly just a different line. Matty Chambers is he getting frustrated? Is he trying to find a way past? He's now got his rear view mirrors full of the Mercedes badge of David Wrench.
Boland certainly looking at the moment to be the cork in the bottle, which is surprising really for a reigning champion, but the BMW not the strongest car. I think he would definitely say that with the GT4s. No one else has picked it, and there is a reason for that. But Boland, obviously a great driver, getting the most he can out of it. He just doesn't have the pace of Plasto up ahead, and it looks like Chambers, Wrench, Barron, even Stevens have the pace on Chris at the moment. So let's see what Matty Chambers can do then as we head onto the pit straight. So he's got a good run here, he's in the slipstream. Obviously he's got to keep one eye on the mirror too, because Wrench is coming up behind, but I don't think he's close enough to make a move into turn 1. He's going to try and force Boland to run wide and make a mistake. Boland does run wide, he leaves the door open, and that's the mistake we're talking about. Through goes Matty Chambers. Now if Boland can hang on the outside, he'll be okay, but he hasn't managed to do so. Now he's got Wrench along the outside of him, but Wrench pulls out of that one as well. Chris Boland really struggling compared to what we usually see from him, Chris. So slightly uncharacteristic, I would say, from Chris Boland. I wonder if he's dealing with an issue or he just doesn't quite have the raw pace here today.
It could be a bit of column A, a bit of column B, but us front row qualifier not getting back into that rhythm. But that was a well executed move there from Matty Chambers. Exactly as you described earlier, John. Just set up the move, put the pressure on, force the mistake. No contact as they came through turns 1 and 2 to give Matty Chambers that third position. David Wrench wanting to get past the BMW, doesn't want to lose touch with Matty Chambers either. Has a look on the inside line himself. He's going to go for it. Is he thought about it? A bit of a half move there, but no dice for the chasing number 32 Mercedes. As the BMW flirts with the grass on the outside line, the grass is generally going to win that one. As Darren Beres has just lost a couple of bits. Well, he's in the middle of a battle himself with Warmington side by side coming through turns 1 and 2. That's why the tower was having an absolute fit. The Mercedes ahead of the Aston at the moment. Then right behind them was Jakajewski, who fell a couple of positions earlier in the race, back to his starting spot. So there is, as we tend to have in this series, there is battles all over the place, and they are very, very hot and intense indeed.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens here in the reverse grid race with the fast drivers coming through from the back, because it is tricky to overtake around here, but it's certainly possible, and that could be very exciting indeed. Meanwhile, it looks like Martin still continuing to lead at the front, 1.3 seconds, so that one's probably done for now. Beres looking very racy on the back of Warmington still after they were side by side on the last lap. Warmington runs a bit wide, so Beres is going to have that slipstream. Warmington's actually blinking now, back he comes. So Beres will be wary of that heading into the first corner, not able to go for a move now, but he's going to look to the outside. You've got this big, long, sweeping right-hander, and looks like Warmington's ran a bit wide on the exit, but he looks like he's going to hold on for now. In fact, no, he hasn't, because Beres has gone through, Juski's gone through, so I wonder if Warmington did actually run wide off the circuit there, just as we cut away. So unfortunate for Warmington, but it looks like a mistake's cost him a couple of places. There's battles all over the place though, because here's the replay. So yes, he did run a bit wide onto the grass, and through went Ajewski and Barris. And fair play to Warmington there for just backing off and avoiding any unnecessary contact. But you were seeing there a big battle as well going on for P6, because in fact Stevens has got past Adam Barron now. So Wrench on the back of Boland still, but in the meantime the Porsches swap positions behind them. So Stevens through and Barron, the man Barron, who has the fastest lap of the race, or did have, at least no, he still does actually have the fastest lap of the race, dropping further down to 7th.
As that's Sean Watson getting out of the way. He's a lap down in the Aston Martin, so well spotted there, Sean, getting out of the way, as that's an opportunity for Steve Wardle to try and get past. That isn't Jack. No, that is Jack Trunway ahead of him. So this is a battle for 16th positions, essentially wooden spoon avoidance for those on the lead lap. So the Aston at the moment, the Mercedes at the moment keeping the McLaren at bay. We've seen Steve Wardle have a spin early on. There is our race leader, absolutely unchallenged up top. And he just managed to beat the time has just disappeared. So Ryan Martin just managed to beat the flag. So one more lap for our first race here in Lime Rock Park.
I think Stevens may have gone deep. No, he's managed to hold on, but he has left the door open slightly for Barron down the inside. So they're going to go side by side of the two Porsches. Now Stevens has the inside for this left-hander, but Barron's going to use the banking to try and get the run. And if he can just hold on, he's then got the inside line, and that's exactly what's happened. Through he goes on Tom Stevens. Great move there from Adam Barron. Really set that one up nicely. It all started with Stevens just running a little wide through turn 1, opening the door, and then we saw that side-by-side action. So through goes Barron again, back into P6. He's going to be in a good spot now for the reverse grid. But Ryan Martin is in a good spot in this race, because he's going to cross the line now to take yet another victory. His third on the bounce, and it's redemption for Ryan Martin after his tricky Oulton Park. He's had a 100% record ever since, so great stuff from the Scotsman. Ahead of Pete Plasto, put up a valiant effort in P2 but dropped away at the end. Then Matty Chambers up to 3rd from 6th on the grid. Superb stuff from the 46, with Boland, Wrench, Barron and Stevens rounding out your top 7.
As we watch Jack Ajewski trying to get past Darren Berry, it's not going to happen, as that was Watson on the right-hand side just putting into the pit lane. So Jack Ajewski rounds out the top 10, not able to get past Darren Berry. Here's Bradley Krupp trying to claw one more point away, and he does manage to get ahead just on the sprint to the line from Ben Weston, as John Finch, Mark Gladwell have also crossed the line in the 13th and 12th respectively. Oh, what a race that was. That was absolutely superb. Once again, Ryan Martin ruling the roost in the number 86 Mercedes. Absolutely superb. Again, just kind of allowed himself that time to settle in, get into his rhythm, and then just opened up the pace as and when he needed to. And after that, we barely saw him.
Exactly, and not the first time that's happened this season. It will be a different story, of course, in race number 2, which we're about to spin the wheel for the grid. But yeah, he's just been sensational, hasn't he, Ryan Martin? And he seems to be moving up a gear now in this season. He's finding a little bit more pace over the field. And I mean, that race, he just walked away. He had the pressure on from Plasto early doors, but he didn't make any mistakes. And then obviously Plasto just couldn't quite live with the pace of Ryan Martin. So it's looking very good right now for him. But race 2 around here, it's tricky to overtake. You've got to be patient, but you've also got to take your opportunities when they arise. There's going to be a lot of drivers under a lot of pressure in about 10 minutes' time.
Very, very true indeed. So there is the race results before any steward's intervention. It was Martin from Plasto from Chambers, your top 3, Chris Boland 4, David Wrench 5, Adam Barron 6th, Tom Stevens 7th, Matthew Forrest 8th, Darren Berris in 9th, Jack Ajewski rounding out the top 10, Adrian Warmington 11th, Mark Gladwell 12th, John Finch 13th, Bradley Krupp 14th, Ben Weston 15th, Jack Trunway 16th, Steve Wardle 17th, and Sean Watson crossing the line a couple of laps down. So all 18 cars coming home that started this race. One of our podium 3 has made themselves available to have a chat to us. We will do the wheel spin first, production are telling me. Right, let's have the wheel then, production. Let's see how many of our top 12 are going to be reversed. So those unfamiliar with the setup, we spin the wheel to randomly choose a number between 6 and 12, and it's that many grid positions that are going to be reversed for this next race. It's going to be a big number. It's going to be 12, is it? It is! Oh, on a track that's difficult to overtake on, the top 12 are reversed. Oh my. I kind of... Yeah.
score, Chris?
This is going to be chaos.
I was going to say a series legend has returned in the number 12.
Yeah,
is
the
back
number
on the
12. Right, well, let's have a chat with. We now have 2 of our podium finishers in the box waiting to have a chat to us. So let's have a chat with our second place finisher, Pete Plasto. You with us?
Yes, good evening. How are you?
Hello, Pete. Well, we're very well. That race gave us plenty to shout about. You were under a lot of pressure there, particularly towards the end. Talk us through it from your side.
Well, at the start, it was just a case of getting inside Chris Boland and making sure I get in that P2 spot. I was a bit disappointed with my qualifying, to be honest. And once I had that, then it was a case of hang on to Ryan as long as I could, and he dragged me along. Quite nice.
Was there a chance of attacking him for the top spot, do you think?
Not really. I don't think the Mercedes seems to turn in a lot nicer. It looks like it does anyway, from my point of view. And I had a lot of understeer, especially in the slower stuff. So, but it was nice. It was nice to finish P2. I was happy with that.
You had a fair amount of pressure being applied on you towards the end of the race. So, was there a concern there? Is this track that's pretty tricky to overtake on? Were you having to really think about hanging on to P2?
Not too much. I think he was about 3 seconds back from me, so it wasn't too bad. But he was reeling me in, so I was aware of it. But I think I had enough in the tank to see it through to the end, so that's fine.
So the random number has come up with 12, so you'll be starting 11th on this race. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about your race too?
It'll be interesting. It's going to be so difficult to overtake, so it could be a bit of carnage. Matty seems really quick. Matty Chambers seems really quick. So, but I'm starting on the inside again, which is nice. That's a bonus. So maybe if I can get on the inside of him, then I can hang on to it.
Awesome stuff.
And move forward, yeah.
Any questions, John?
How are you enjoying Lime Rock Park, Pete? Because obviously it's a different track to all the British ones we come to, but very, very high speed. Maybe not the best for racing in terms of overtaking opportunities, but it's such a blast to drive. So just talk about how you're feeling about it.
It's very hot out there. It's like 44 degrees track temp, I think it was, or something like that. So it's really warm, very slidey. So you got to be so careful on the exits. With just put a wheel on the grass and you could be round, especially over the little jump as well. You've got to be so careful where you place your car and hit the curves correctly. There's a lot to think about, even though it looks like a fairly simple track. A lot of late apexes, and it's really quite a challenge. And because it's so short as well, the times are so tight. As you were listening in qualifying, I think there were 5 or 6 within a tenth, and so yeah, really tough.
Awesome stuff. Well, normally I would say we very much look forward to, there's an expectation kind of, to see the familiar names up top. But with this one, do you think we're going to have a bit of a different results to normal, bit of a change in the guard for this one?
I'll be really interested to see how Ryan gets on. I'm myself and Matty Chambers, and I think Chris Boland got 4th in the end, did he? Did he hang on to that?
Yes, I think.
Yeah, so I'll be interested to see how we can come through the field and make moves without causing too much carnage, hopefully, and hopefully we can have a really good battle and somebody else finishes first. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? maybe even me.
We look forward to how the rest of the evening unfolds. Best of luck, great podium. We will speak to you again soon. Thank you very much, Pete Plasto.
Thank you.
Good luck, Pete.
Cheers.
Good luck indeed. Absolutely true. Right, let's have a chat with the three-time on the bounce race winner, Ryan Martin. Ryan, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good evening, gentlemen.
Well, it was kind of what you described from last week, wasn't it? It was a controlled start. You had the start of Keynes once again, which I guess is a little bit easier when you haven't got anybody directly ahead of you. But then it was just, controlled and keep everything in the white lines. Did it look like you had everything under control?
For the most part, I believe I did. The first few laps, Pete was right behind me, and I thought, is he going to go for a move somewhere? Is he going to try and throw up the inside? But I think he was a little bit too far behind. And going on to the main straight, every time I was able to pull out another tenth on him, so turn 1 was safe. But I'd be quite happy to never drive this track ever again after the second race. I am not enjoying it. I despise this track. Especially in the temperatures that we have. The track was up at nearly 40 degrees, so this is not an enjoyable experience whatsoever. Especially when you're trying to win the race and drive at the front. So hopefully the second session will be a little bit lower temps and there'll be a little bit more grip than what feels like doing the Swedish WRC.
Wow, I mean, that's a very, very conclusive analysis of a Lime Rock Park. You did say that you hadn't come across this one, so I'm guessing we're not going to be seeing you as a regular in these parts then.
I do not think so. Some of the corners, especially in these temperatures, are just on the edge of grip, spinning out, losing traction. At the end of the first lap, going around the last turn, I almost lost it, and I was being careful. There's almost no grip out there. I didn't see on the timings on the deltas if anybody had any incidents or anybody spun out, but I felt like I was right on the edge, and I feel like for the past 2 days driving this track that I've been on the edge at all times. So as I think it was Steve Redgrave that said, if you ever see me driving this track ever again, you have my permission to shoot me. So I think I'll share his opinion.
Trunwit did spin off on lap 1 in the last corner just to confirm that you were absolutely right. There was no grip out there. But tell you what, it's great for us spectators to watch, and I'm sure race 2 is going to be exciting for us to watch as well. Like, do you genuinely think, being very realistic for a second, P12 on a track that's very difficult to overtake, you've got good pace, clearly a step above everyone else. Do you genuinely think you can win this race, or do you think that's a step too far?
On this track, taking that into consideration and the temperatures and how many, I think it was a 12 reverse grid, so with that many cars in front of me, I am not expecting to win this race. I'll try and keep it clean. If I do get a chance to overtake anybody, I'll certainly go for it and try and get some extra points, but the last thing I want to do is to ruin anybody else's race, and especially in this track, it's very, very technical. It doesn't look much, but every turn there are difficulties, so I'm going to have to just take my time and pick my overtakes very carefully. But being surrounded by Chris Boland, Pete, I think Matty Chambers was on the podium as well. We're all quick, so I can see those guys trying to get through the pack and maybe some incidents in front. So maybe some freebies, which are the best type of overtakes, will be available. But I'll be there to take them. But if not, I'll bide my time. I'm not going to do anything stupid, and hopefully get a few places up the grid.
Wish you the best of luck then, working your way through the field and finding that elusive grip, particularly in that final turn. Great win yet again, Ryan, and I'm sure it won't be long before we speak to you again. Thank you very much, Ryan Martin.
Thank you, guys. Have a great one, and hopefully we'll be speaking to you in about 20 minutes, but I doubt it.
Good luck, Ryan.
You heard it here first, folks. So, Ryan makes a good point there, John. Is that the layout looks fairly straightforward, but getting the absolute best out of this track is very narrow. It is quite bumpy in places, and the undulation changing all makes for a huge challenge.
Certainly does. I mean, and that's why I love it. It's such a great place to watch cars driving, because they're so on the limit. You can see them bouncing around, and Ryan's pain is definitely our gain in that situation there. The first lap on cold tires on a hot track is dicey to say the least, and we did see that. But to be fair to the drivers, they did a good job with it. You know, we saw one spin out of the last corner, and it looked like maybe a bit of a lift on the exit, just to be careful, caught out. I think it was Trunwit there. But other than that, everyone else kept it pretty clean. So, yeah, I think, you know, as I say, Ryan might not be enjoying this one, but it certainly makes for some exciting racing to watch. And I think these GT4 cars are, you know, they seem like the perfect limit of power versus, I guess you could say, like, acceptableness around Lime Rock Park, because I don't think you could go too much more and get away with it without the chicanes. But just as it is, the cars are just right on the limit, and it's great to see.
Maybe you should jump in his car. You know, swap one Scotsman for another.
Yeah, I mean, we as Ryan did say, we do love a freebie. So if he's offering,
yeah. Well, by the sound of it, I don't know that he'd put up an awful lot of objection if he's really not enjoying the circuit. You're a great fan of it, so there you go.
Championship a bit closer.
Yeah, absolutely so. So the driver's just going through last-minute preparation, last-minute warm-up before we head over to the second race of the night. So for those unfamiliar with the format, you saw that we spun the wheel. That decides how many of our top 12 are reversed from the finishing results of race number 1. And it came up with 12, so that is probably the most challenging 12 this series is going to see, being that it's so difficult to overtake on. So the top 12 results will be reversed from our finishing results of race 1. So once we head into the session, we will then go through how the grid looks. So I'm just watching the timing screen at the moment, and I tell you what, Pete Plastow suddenly put in a 51.6. So where's that pace been? But then the track temperature is quite a bit lower in this practice session than it was during the race. Now the session has just begun, and this is how the grid is going to look. It's Mark Gladwell in the number 80 car alongside Adrian Warmington. So it's a Mercedes 123. Jack Ajewski in the number 99 car is joined by Darren Berris, the leader of our Aston Martins, on row 2. Matthew Forrest in his Aston alongside Tom Stevens in the flying Porsche have row 3. Adam Barron alongside David Wrench for row 4. Chris Boland and Matty Chambers row 5. And Pete Plastow and Ryan Martin round out the reverse grid element on row 6. Row 7 downwards will start in their finishing positions. So John Finch and Bradley Kropp will have row 7. Ben Weston and Jack Trunritt row 8. Steve Wardle and Sean Watson will have row 9. They've just started the rolling lap now. I bet you, well, you tell me, John, what would be running through your mind? You're Ryan Martin, or you're in Ryan Martin's car, and what's running through your mind on a reverse grid situation like this? You're starting in 12th, it's difficult to overtake. What's running through your mind?
Probably the beer and the hot shower I'm going to have after this race. I think by the sounds of it, he wants it over with. But listen, I mean, of all the tracks to get a reverse grid top 12, this is probably the worst for the drivers at the top. It's probably the best for us, and also for the drivers, of course, further down the field. This is a chance for a new name to finish towards the top of the grid here. Ryan Martin's just going to have to keep his nose clean. He's clearly got the pace. I honestly think, despite what he was saying in the interview, I think he's going to love this. He's going to really enjoy trying to fight his way through the field here at Lime Rock. He's going to have to be careful on lap 1. But yeah, if I'm the drivers that are mired in the midfield now, I'm just going to be looking at lap 1 as a big opportunity to make some moves. I'm also going to be, allowing the race to come to me a little bit, because as we keep saying, here at Lime Rock, it's very hard to force a move. You've got to just keep the pressure on and force a mistake. And I think that's what these drivers with the extra pace are very capable of doing. They can be scary in the mirrors, they can flash their lights, they can get right up close, keep it under control. And these drivers towards the front who maybe have less pace are going to be feeling that pressure. So really for Ryan, it's just about having fun, seeing how many places he can get up through the field. And if he picks up another good result here, Chris, it's another potential championship defining result that he won't have to drop later in the season. So he'll be thinking championship. But of course, the guys in the front row, Gladwell, Warmington, Majewski, Berris, who came from right at the back last time, they are going to be thinking about this very race and picking up a good result.
Absolutely true. So then, thunderous roar of these GT4s ready to do battle for the second time here in Lime Rock Park. We are racing again, and what a start from, I think that was Darren Berris, wasn't it? No, it was Jack Ajewski in the 99 Mercedes. At the start of the gods, Adrian Warmington has gone off the road, so is Jack Trunwitt. So they're going to lose positions. Careful! Oh no, that's Plastow! That's Pete Plastow that has been caught up in the incident and spat out into the infield. That's Sean Watson. Oh, goodness me. Careful, Pete. Oh, he is going to be livid about that. But there's Tom Stevens up in the 4th alongside the fellow Porsche of Adam Barron. Adam on the outside line reclaims 4th. Well, we thought it was going to be a bit of a chaotic start, so it's now a Ajewski from Berris from Wrench, your top 3.
Incredible stuff in this opening lap. Disaster for Pete Plastow after his podium in race 1. Looks like it's been an okay start for Ryan Martin, up a couple of spots, but nothing crazy. John Finch actually up 4 spots in the Aston Martin, up to P9 from 13th. I think Adam Barron's in with a chance here as well. David Wrench, they both had great pace in that opening race, but they're going to have to deal with Jack Ajewski and Darren Berris, who, after a great comeback, have made their way all the way to the front, following, especially for Berris, a poor qualifying. So he's right up there with Ajewski. Ajewski's got top 12 pace, though, undoubtedly. So I think Ajewski's going to be going for a win here. Meanwhile, Gladwell drops right down the order. So unfortunately, the man who started right at the front of this field is now right at the back.
And the Bradley Kropp has really struggled all night as well. He's had a spin, or several spins, I think, indeed, that's dropped him to the tail of the field. But up top, Jack Kajewski's under all kinds of pressure from Darren Barris and David Wrench. Matty Chambers, he was tipped to have some very strong pace from both of our podium sitters to whom we've spoken to. So Pete Plastow and Ryan Martin, both tipping Matty Chambers. And look at, did you see how he slid through that final corner? That's exactly what Ryan Martin was talking about. The lack of grip in that final corner in particular, as Adrian Warmington has brought his car off, and Jack Kajewski's gone off the road. He's made that mistake in the turn one. We've seen several drivers wander off the road there. That is first to 8 in one mistake.
Heartbreak for Jack Kajewski. I honestly thought he might have the pace here to do something in this race, maybe pick up a win or at least a podium, and he's thrown it away. He's gone straight on at turn one. We didn't quite see how it happened, but unfortunately for him, he's down to P8, and all of that work, the reverse grid, the opportunity, it's just got the better of him there. Let's see a replay of the start meanwhile though, on board with Pete Plaster. So he avoids the slow Warmington. That was Warmington off the front row who dropped back. And then we had Plasto heading into turn one, and it's going to all come together as Concertina. There's the other mistake from that would have been Warmington. Sorry, that would have been Gladwell. And then, yeah, it's just come together. All of the cars squeezing closer together. I think Ryan Martin was involved in that as well, actually, our championship leader. So yeah, just really unfortunate stuff there for Plasto.
Yeah. Oh, and that's John Finch. No, it's not John Finch, beg your pardon. That's Matthew Forrest. That's Forrest round in the Aston Martin. So again, another incident at exactly the same place. It's turns 1 and 2 that is catching everybody out. Bradley Kropp, no, Steve Wardle, beg your pardon, he's gone off the road. Oh, so here's Jack Kajewski. Unforced error from him. Oh, he's out in the lead at the time. So that's coming through turn 2. Oh, so here it is. So that was him recovering from the... And there it is, just wandered slightly too wide. I think he probably knew at that point he'd gone in too deep. And that's dropped him all the way down to 8th position. It's Jack Kajewski's back up into 6th. But he will be kicking himself for that.
Absolutely devastating there for Kajewski. And as you say, completely self-inflicted. You know, he did it to himself. He had the lead. He was the pressure. And there it was. There's the replay, meanwhile, of Matthew Forrest getting turned around by Matty Chambers, I believe. Rolled in behind, or maybe he lost on his own before the contact. Quite hard to see from that angle. But yeah, one thing we didn't really talk too much about, really, our front row, as Forrest makes another mistake the next lap. Our front row was decimated there with Warmington and Mark Gladwell off the line. And one of them had a really bad start and didn't get away, didn't get the limiter off or something. And the other one ran wide at turn 1. So nightmare for our guy at the front as Chambers gets sideways up over the hill, lifting that front of the car up. It just tells them what we were saying earlier about pressure, Chris. When some of the drivers are right at the front that maybe aren't used to being at the front of the grid, it can really, really pile on that pressure. And we're seeing that exactly right now with Darren Barris at the front with Barron and Wrench. Now, Barris, despite him starting at the back of the last race, he does have experience of the fighting at the front during these reverse grid races. We've seen him win before. So Barris can deal with the pressure, but he's certainly going to be under a lot of it in this race.
Absolutely, sir. I reckon Ryan Martin is just going to try and not be absolutely cannoned off into oblivion. He's probably... Oh, that's Stevens off. That's Tom Stevens off. So Ryan Martin, exactly as he said, is picking up all the freebie overtakes. He's just letting everyone else fall off the road. He's just minding his own business there as Ryan Martin. So he doesn't need to do anything silly. He doesn't need to try and force the issue. Everyone else is kind of doing it for him, as we almost have side by side Aaron Barron and Darren Barris for the race lead. Porsche against Aston. Can't quite find his way past. Has a look at the inside line coming down towards the penultimate turn. The final turn. Oh, nearly runs off the road and nearly takes David Wrench with him. The Mercedes has a great run from that final turn. Adam Barron slightly compromised. He's lost one. Is he going to lose another one to Matty Chambers? Matty Chambers is very, very punchy tonight. That's trouble. That's Barron and Wrench that have gone around. Adam Barron trying to take avoiding action from David Wrench's spin. That sent the Porsche off into oblivion. That puts Ryan Martin now up into 4th. I don't think he's actually overtaken anyone. I think everyone else has fallen off the road ahead of him.
That's exactly what you need to do around here. I honestly think Barron might have got into Wrench there. He did. He touched the back of him, and that's what turned Wrench, and then Barron unfortunately gets clipped by the spinning 32 Mercedes. So real unfortunate there for Wrench. Barron obviously not meaning to do something there. He's maybe braked a little bit late. Maybe Wrench has caught him early. Really, they were all a victim of their own success there, essentially. Barris was on the defence, heading into the penultimate corner. Baron got checked up, didn't really have anywhere to go, had a tight line into the final corner. And meanwhile, we have Ryan Martin looking down the inside of Boland. He's going to try and squeeze a gap, and he's going to make a gap into turn 1. So now Ryan Martin up to 3rd. We very well may be speaking with him after this race, considering he's already on the podium with less than 8 minutes to go, or less than 9 minutes to go. But yeah, from Baron, he was kind of just unfortunate there. He got stuck on the inside. Obviously, that meant Wrench could get down the inside of him on the exit at the last corner, and then into turn 1. Don't know if it was a mistake from Baron going a little bit deep, or maybe Wrench was a bit earlier than he expected. Either way, it's taken them both out of contention, which is a real shame, and it's just opened the door for Ryan Martin to come through and move up to 3rd now, ahead of Boland. And you can see Darren Barris up in front, not far ahead. Chambers has got good pace as well, though, so it's certainly not over. I think we could see a great battle between Chambers and Martin here, but Barris is going to do his best to hang on to that lead.
Oh, and then he wandered too wide off the exit at the final turn, managed to keep his foot in it and not lose any time, but that's Ryan Martin having to go, and Matty Chambers, oh, they nearly come together, and Chris Boland had to really take an avoiding line there so he didn't tangle up with our championship leader. They're so very close. Darren Barris did not have a good exit from turn 2, or Matty Chambers had a better one and had to take an alternate line there, so they didn't all come together. They are so close, you could almost walk from one car to the other. They are that close, as they're catching to the back of, that is Warmington, I think. No, Sean Watson, beg your pardon. Thank you, production. So he's staying very much out of the way, not interested in being involved in with the leaders, as Matty Chambers nearly runs too deep on that penultimate turn. Shuts the door on Ryan Martin. That's going to slightly disrupt his momentum. Chris Boland is now there to try and capitalise on it. Everyone's in everyone else's slipstream. Matty Chambers gets himself into a sucking position, does he? Ryan Martin has a look on the inside line coming down towards turn 1. Can't get it to stick. Chris Boland is right there, keeping the pressure on Ryan Martin.
I really don't want to curse our leader here, Chris, but I tell you what, an incredible defensive effort so far from Darren Barris. He's parking his car in all the right spots in the exits. He's losing a lot of lap time doing so, but it doesn't matter. He's leading the race. He doesn't need lap time, he needs track position, and every time you see that Aston Martin on exit, when he's worried about the run of the others, he parks it right in the correct spot, and there's nowhere for them to go. So even there, covering the middle of the road, again, not allowing a move down the inside into here, and yes, he is compromising himself, he's slowing himself up. Meanwhile, what he's also doing is bringing in 3rd place Ryan Martin, who's actually going to sweep down the inside of Chambers. And again, that was Barris' good defending, leaving Chambers nowhere to go. And Martin takes the position, so now he's up to P2. But it's been a superb display so far from Barris. I do think now it's going to be even more difficult with Ryan Martin in P2. Very much so. So that's 2 positions lost and nearly 1 regained. Oh, door banging going on between the BMW and the Mercedes, with Tom Stevens, great ringside seat for the argument going on ahead of him. Matty Chambers almost gets a punch in the face from the BMW of Chris Boland. So Tom Stevens now makes this a quintet arguing for the race lead. Pete Plastow only 3 seconds back, bearing in mind that he's already had a spin, a colossal spin, which he was just caught up with someone else's incident right at the beginning of the race. So if these 5 continue to argue, Pete Plastow could be involved in this before the checkered flag falls. He needs a bit more luck on his side. But as Matty Chambers gets a little bit impatient behind Chris Boland, Ryan Martin, considering how he was fairly certain he would not be on the podium, is in a potential position to challenge for the race lead. Barris has passed level 1, he's passed level 5, and now it's the boss fight. He's got Ryan Martin up next, and they're coming up to some traffic as well, so he's going to have everything thrown at him. Every single colour of shell is about to come Darren Barris' direction, and he's going to have to hang on from the talent of the grid at the moment, which is Ryan Martin, and Chris Boland, our reigning champion as well. So you've got traffic just up ahead then. We think that might be Wardle, who's going to come into play soon. Meanwhile, you can see Barris parking his car in the right place, pulls to the inside slightly on the exit, and that is Wardle and the McLaren up ahead. So hopefully Steve will see them coming. I'm sure he will, because he'll hear them coming from a mile off, and it's going to be a pretty intimidating sight in the mirror of that McLaren. But once again, through the last corner, Barris hangs on. So he's dealing with the pressure. He's run a bit wide on the grass there, but it's okay. He's got a good exit still. He's spraying dirt up in the faces of the other cars behind. Meanwhile, Matty Chambers gets the run on former champion Boland. Down the inside goes Chambers. He's going to run Boland out nice and wide, but just managing to get the move done. Great stuff from Chambers, who pulls back up into 3rd place. And he's now going to rely on some defensive driving from Barris to put off Martin if Chambers wants to get back into this one. But here they come up towards Wardle. It's going to get dicey in about 10 seconds time.
And Pete Plasto is gaining on the bunch of them. There he is in the background of the shot. He's dragging Adam Barron actually with him. So Adam Barron may actually be opting not to attack the Aston ahead of him to try and join this group. Can you imagine that? 1st to 7th, all arguing for the race win. Steve Wardle, I would not want to be in that McLaren right now. I would just park. Yeah, I would just like, no, I am not having anything to do with this. But I mean, he must be feeling the earth shake. Oh, lovely camera, the back camera from Steve Wardle. I mean, he's acting as our camera guy, hugging the inside line coming through turns 1 and 2. Yeah, I would be terrified watching all these. You know what the front of these cars look like. Well, you generally know what the back of them look like. Again, no disrespect to Steve Wardle, but that McLaren has offered him no pace against a rest furious flashing of the lights there from Darren Barris. Let's just hope he realizes how many cars there are in this queue. Thankfully, he does. So we've seen it, haven't we? We've seen somebody get out of the way of one car, not realizing there's a group of them, and then pulling back onto the racing line. That's too wide for Barris, but does manage just about to shut the door. That's wrong-footed Ryan Martin very slightly. Here comes Matty Chambers. He's had his elbows out all night long. Can the Mercedes swap? Well, sorry, the 46 Mercedes swap round with Ryan Martin. Ryan Martin goes to the partly defensive, partly offensive line, and again, Barris shuts the door on all of them. This is absolutely fantastic.
I'm 100% neutral, but come on, Darren Barris. What a defensive effort is going on right now. He's holding off the best of the best here in that Aston Martin, looking for his 2nd win in 2 seasons after starting from the back for race 1. He's going to have to hold on here, though, because Martin's got to run. There's just nowhere for him to go. Barris is parking his car in all of the perfect spots. He knows exactly where to place that Aston on the exit so that nobody can get the space on him. So Martin's going to look to the outside, but again, Barris shuts the door there. Barris just needs to not miss his apexes by too much here. He can pull once again back in front of Martin before the last corner. There's not enough space for Martin to get through, and all of that is just helping Matty Chambers come back into this as well. Plasto, after being nowhere, is only 1.1 second off this battle, but now as we head on to the what must be 2 or 3 laps to go, we're almost seeing contact between Martin and Barris. Barris down the inside, Martin's going to go for the outside move, but I don't think he's going to get it done there, and he leaves the door open for Chambers. So through goes Chambers. Barris holds on. Chambers up to P2, and he's been turned. He's turned across Martin. There was no space. Unfortunately, the two come together, and all of a sudden, Boland finds himself in P2, and Chambers is off the circuit. What a shame.
Oh my goodness me now, Tom Stevens. That's Pete Plasto. Plasto, beg your pardon. Flash of the lights there. I don't blame Tom Stevens. They kind of tangled up with Ryan Martin there. So I'm not surprised he's not best pleased with it. But now it's Barris from Boland from Martin, your top 3. Oh my goodness me, that all unfolded so quickly. And now Pete Plasto in position potentially for a podium opportunity. Matty Chambers has pulled his car into the pits. Oh my goodness me, let's have a look at the replay. Well, assuming nothing absolutely catastrophic happens on the track whilst we're doing that. Let's have a look at this again. Let's see what happened.
I think Chambers came across on Ryan Martin. I really do. I think he thought he was clear and he wasn't, but we'll see on the replay here. So Chambers in the pink car, Martin on the right, and Chambers, yeah, I think he was turned by Martin, but honestly, Martin had nowhere to go there. So in that situation, Chambers just didn't quite leave enough room for his rival. And meanwhile, more of it's happening. That's Martin and Boland off. And I think
no.
Oh, it looks like Barron may have been caught up in that as well. And through goes Tom Stevens back into 3rd. Finch is up to 6th. And Barris and Plasto are 1 and 2. Could you imagine 15 minutes ago if we'd said Barris and Plasto would be sitting 1 and 2 on lap 17? It's unbelievable stuff. And that's going to be the checkered flag.
That's the checkered flag. Oh my goodness me. What on... Wow. Hopefully we'll be able to get a replay of what on earth happened, because we didn't quite see how that built. We saw the end result of it. But Darren Barris taking a very worthwhile win, not taking that away from the number 40 Aston Martin whatsoever. Pete Plasto must be wondering what on earth has just happened. And Tom Stevens as well has come home in 3rd position. Adam Barron in 4th after the absolute chaos of what had transpired. We're going to try a replay of what happened in the last. So there is Martin bumper rubbing against Boland. Boland trying to take the racing line, but Martin just... Oh, Adam... Oh, how did you avoid that, Adam Barron? I thought he would smash into the side of someone. Tom Stevens saying, yep, I'll have that. Thank you very much. Oh, my goodness me. That was absolutely unreal. as they kind of come into the pits, they're probably all thinking, "What on earth? Oh, Steve Wall's going to have another lap. Well, why not? he's getting his money's worth out of this one." But oh wow, that was. Oh, the stewards are going to have a busy night.
I mean, that's the beauty of the reverse grid race, right? Because Darren Barris, I mean, sensational defensive drive, one of the best we've seen in the series, taking another win in the number 40 Aston Martin. He is going to be over the moon, so hopefully we'll hear from him as well. But it was basically because of his pace, because he didn't have the outright pace that some of his rivals had. I mean, his best lap, 52.4, not bad at all. But you're looking at 51s for many of his rivals. It just meant that, it was a bit of a bottleneck. And suddenly, as soon as there's a bottleneck, people from further back can catch up. There's incidents. And, I mean, for Pete Plasto to be facing the wrong way on the opening lap and to come back through to P2 at Lime Rock in a 15-minute race, sensational stuff. Absolutely sensational from Pete. Obviously just capitalizing on others' mistakes, just as they did when he went off on the opening lap. So I think we're going to have a very, very happy podium indeed. I mean, Tom Stevens also was, I think he was 6th or 7th with a couple of laps to go, and he sneaks through the carnage and picks up P3 in the final lap. What a race. That's what it's all about.
Oh, that was phenomenal. I so enjoyed that. Absolutely amazing stuff. And a couple of our podium sitters have come to join us. Let's have a chat with our 3rd place finisher, Tom Stevens. Tom, are you with us?
Good evening.
What? Just talk us through it, because I have no words, or no words left, I should say.
I don't even know where to start with that one. That last lap
you would, because we don't.
That last lap was a little bit spicy, but yeah, throughout I think everyone was in a bit of a rush to get through. But then, to be honest, for the majority of the race, it was quite civilized from where we were anyway until the last 2 laps, and then all mayhem kind of broke loose. But dropped down to 4th to 6th, and then obviously managed to get 3rd in the last lap. So a bit lucky, but I'll take that.
Now, we haven't enjoyed your company so much this season in the commentary box. So a great podium and very well deserved. We do have a lovely snapshot of you taking off all 4 wheels in the Porsche, which we have used in the broadcast. That's going to be quite a moment when you're doing a bit of impromptu tyre saving at certain moments of the race.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting track combo with Lime Rock and GT4s. Obviously, it suits more like kind of Skip Barber and lower powered MX-5s and stuff when you first start racing and stuff. When you start putting the power up a little bit, it's actually quite a technical track. If you get one corner wrong, then it kind of sets you wrong for the next one. And especially, with the brow there, you've got to make sure you're a little bit careful just so you don't send it a little bit wide, because as soon as you just lose traction when you get a bit of air, if you're at the wrong angle, then you're straight into the wall.
So you're serving, if I'm correct, you're one of our Royal Navy representatives. If you're able to, can you give us a bit of an insight on what your 9 to 5 is?
Yeah, of course. I'm a POM and aircraft handler. I currently work in sunny Cornwall, a support unit. So basically, I just fly around from ships all around the world, qualifying and training up their flight deck officers to allow aviation to be carried out on ships.
Amazing stuff. Are we going to be seeing you all season long?
I hope so. I know I've just been tasked for something in a couple of weeks' time, so I may miss 1 round, but I'm hoping I should be here for the rest of the season.
Brilliant stuff. Any questions, John?
Quickly ask you, since we haven't heard from you as much this season. Obviously, the competition's really stepped up this year, but you're right there on pace, but you're just not quite being able to get into that very, very top bracket. So just sum up how the season's been, the first half of that season's been so far.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think every single season of this, everyone's progressed more and more. And I think this year's caught me out a little bit. When we're going from like Porsche Cups, all of us are on quite an even keel, like the top 5. So we managed to get a couple of wins, second places, and it was kind of like quite frequent without that. When we went to the GR86s, again, I found myself quite quick in them. I've always struggled a little bit with GT4s, just I can't seem to get the rotation in them. I'm in the Porsche because I'm cheapskate and I didn't want to buy any more cars because I don't race GT4s at all. I'm always GTEs, GT3s, F4s kind of thing. So yeah, I've just struggled to get the rotation with the car a little bit. But I think the standard of driving this season especially has just gone up more and more every year, and I'm kind of the position I should be. I think if I get anything over 5th or 6th, that's a bonus.
Awesome stuff. But yeah, I'm only just catching my breath after that race in particular. So much so, I've actually forgotten where we are next week. Spa. It's Spa, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, very different track. What's your thoughts heading over to Belgium?
Yeah, love Spa. Never done it at GT4 before. It's always LMP2s or GTs and the endurance racing and stuff. But nice wide track. So there should be some good battling, hopefully.
Very much looking forward to that. Well done on the podium. Well deserved. And I hope we get to enjoy your company again as the season continues. Well done. Thank you very much, Tom Stevens.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Let's have a chat with our second place finisher. It's a familiar name. It's Pete Plasto. I bet you didn't think we'd be speaking to you after lap 1.
No, I definitely didn't at all. I knew anything could happen, so I was absolutely chuffed to bits for that result.
I can imagine so. So talk us through it then. You've got 5 minutes to go. You're about 3 seconds behind a tightly packed quintet. What's running through your mind?
Well, yeah, I could see the gap coming down slowly, but I thought I was just going to run out of time, to be honest, as I got onto them. And then I could see people going side by side, and the carnage ensued from there. So absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's we thought it would be quite atrocious, but wow, that really was something. Particularly the last minute detonations that kind of went on.
Yeah.
But was it a case of when you got caught up in that early incident, was it kind of red mist off this end, or
no, not at all. Not at all. Just get back on track and start lapping again and get in your rhythm. I didn't get angry. I think, look, I've just watched the replay back now, and I think it was partly on me, to be honest. I got a bit close to Matty in front of me, and then I had to jink left, and then I had 2 cars next to me. So it's kind of on me anyway. So I'm glad I wasn't swearing at other people.
Oh, you need to sell your anger management secret then, because I think I'd have been absolutely red mist at that point. But fair play to you, Pete. Fair play to you. Any questions, John?
I mean, first of all, just incredible stuff, Pete. And, after lap 1 at Lime Rock, you're at the back of the grid. It's a track that no one can overtake on, or is very difficult to overtake. We thought Ryan was going to struggle from 12th on the grid, and you find yourself facing the wrong way on lap 1. So incredible to get back through to second place. Just a great drive. Does that give you a bit of confidence, you put you in a good spirits heading into Spa? And what are your thoughts on Spa-Francorchamps as a circuit in GT4?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Spa. I love that place. Really fond of it. And yeah, it should be. Hopefully, I won't be back in P17, but to have to do that again. But if it needs to happen, then it needs to happen. The other drivers around here were really helpful, and they weren't. A lot of them drove off the track themselves or had their own incidents, so that helped me. But the few that weren't, I actually had to overtake. They were fair, and it was good racing.
I think if you watch it back, Pete, you'll owe Darren Barris a beer or two after that one, because he put on such a sensational defensive drive at the front. I think everyone just crumbled behind him. Yeah,
I was just chatting to him a minute ago, and I was thanking him for holding up the pack for me.
Don't blame you at all. Brilliant recovery drive there, Pete. And we will speak again as the season continues. Brilliant stuff. Well done on another podium, Pete Plasto.
Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
I'm looking forward to this one. Right, we don't often get a chance to chat to him, but let's drag across our Race 2 victor, Darren Barris.
Oh.
Oh my God, sir. That was a defensive masterclass. So, I mean, absolutely cannoned off the line. And then you must have felt like you had the entire world biting at your exhaust pipe. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I saw Jack get a good start between us. He wanted me to stress that any subsequent accidents were the cause of he had a couple of black screens, so he's trying to defer any responsibility for that. But we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But no, he had a good start. I think the second car in second actually jumped the leader off the start, so had a penalty. Yeah, managed to stay with Jack. I knew that a bit of pressure might force an error from him, so which fortuitously came. And then it was just a case, every single fast car that shuffled up to the front was just a case of, here we go. And I just had to keep it neat and tidy. And I knew that if I was able to hold them up long enough, the faster cars would keep backing up. So that was ultimately my tactic for everyone that got to the front, was backing up enough so they fought amongst themselves. And there you go, that seemed to work.
Well, I'll say, my goodness me, it was... there was one point where we had the back camera on Steve Wardle in the McLaren when you were coming up to lap him, and it was just a conga line behind you. So your mirror must have been. So do you just focus on where you are going to go, or do you have to keep an eye on where? I mean, it was you had various people sat behind you until they had their own incidents. Is it just a case of this is where I need to go, or are you looking on where others are trying to make their moves?
A bit of both, really. So from my live race experience, one of the things I'm fairly good at is either hassling people or making sure I know where to put the car to deter them from throwing it up the inside. Clearly, in real life, people are less willing to throw the car up the inside because the consequences are a little bit more severe. So in the synthetic world, people tend to take a bit more risk. But I knew I got into a nice rhythm throughout the circuit throughout this evening. So I knew where I was making small errors and where I wasn't. So every time I made a small error, so there was a couple of times I ran wide coming onto the start-finish straight, but I just kept my foot in it and I knew I was able to keep the car straight. Then I knew that I was probably going to have to defend into turn one, and there were a couple of occasions going down towards the very back of the circuit where I knew I hadn't got the best exit, so I knew I just needed to place the car a little bit further over. And equally coming into turn one, forced them to go wide, knowing that they were never going to drive all the way around the outside. So I had a nice rhythm with the car, which really helps then understand when it's not quite gone right, to then understand whether I need to do something different.
Awesome stuff. So this is the first time I think we've spoken to you this season. As a member of our serving RAF, you give us an insight on what your 9 to 5 is?
So my 9 to 5 is actually in synthetics as well. So I'm part of a program which is destined to link all of the UK's synthetic training devices, be that a flight sim or a training environment for people that aren't in aircraft, to be able to do collective training. So it's a bit like this is a bit of a busman's holiday, effectively.
Amazing stuff. Any questions, John?
First of all, just congratulations. I mean, what an incredible defensive effort. You'll see if you watch that back. I was very, very impressed. I just thought you were placing the car perfectly, and it was brilliant. And not your first win as well from the back of the grid. You won the finale last season, of course, as well. After you poor qualifying in race one, and then a great drive from the reverse grid. But obviously, for me, I can see your real life experience coming through in the defending there. So just tell us a little bit more about what you're actually doing in terms of your real life racing, what series, and how you get on.
So my stalwart series, I haven't raced for a couple of years because of various life in general. I generally race a Westfield, so a Caterham-esque Lotus 7 type vehicle. It's a slightly different one because it's got a 4-litre Rover V8 in it, so something a bit different. And that's in the Sports Special series, so very, very similar sort of format in terms of 15-minute sprint races, a couple of races over the weekend. But we're just embarking on a program to do 2-hour club enduro races with 750 Motor Club, and I'm leading a project to refresh a Mazda MX-5 that we've got, which has effectively been stripped down, and I'm kind of going through a rebuild at the moment. So that'll be the drive for this season, and probably next season will be focused on these 2-hour endurance races, and it's a team car for the RAF. So it's designed to bring on the people who are doing the live Armed Forces Race Challenge, who want to get a bit more into endurance racing, so that when we do the Burkitt Handicap race at the end of the year, which is a 6-hour team race, or we do the Race of Remembrance, which is a much longer race and goes into the night over the Remembrance weekend, then that car will be part of that team, and we'll hopefully bring the people along and use it as an opportunity to expose them to a different type of racing, because whilst endurance racing nowadays is generally just qualifying lap after qualifying lap, in the real world and the club level, you have got to look after the car a bit, and you have got to look after yourself a bit more, because we're not all the highly tuned athletes that drive some of these world endurance cars nowadays. So that's my. It's something I want to do, something slightly different, because I've been racing my Westfield for a lot of years. So this was an ideal opportunity to do that. So I'm very much looking forward to getting that out on track this year.
I'm still wrapping my that best of luck. Exactly to say that, John. I'm wrapping my head around the fact, how on earth have you squeezed a Rover V8 into a roller skate that is a Westfield chassis? How?
To be fair, Westfield did it, so I just bought the kit for the car. I always wanted to build my own car, and I always loved the sound of a V8, and they'd already done it. It's been substantially modified to a race car since then, because I bought it originally as a road car. But yeah, it's a squeeze, and I've had to do some modifications to make it a bit more accessible from a race perspective, but it just about fits, but there's not a lot of room.
Amazing stuff. Well, Best of luck with the real life racing campaign, and again, we thank you for your service, along with all of our serving members of the armed forces and also our veterans. A great race window, and we look forward to speaking to you again as the season continues. Thank you very much, Darren Berris.
Thank you.
And that is going to wrap things up for this evening. Thank you very much to those that have been with us either live or post-event. Your presence is always welcome. Thank you very much, John Monroe, for joining me in the commentary box. It's always a great pleasure to be alongside you once again.
Appreciated, Chris. Likewise, and I hope you enjoyed your Lime Rock debut. Obviously, back to norm next week with Spa-Francorchamps circuit. We've both, I'm sure, commented on many a time, and it's an excellent racetrack for very different reasons for Lime Rock. This was a bit mental this week, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I'm sure it'll be the same next week. Will Ryan Martin get back on the top step? Will we have some more names? I think we're going to have some great racing.
I fully agree with you there, John. Thank you very much, Tom Bryant, for being in charge of the cameras. A great pleasure to be alongside you once again. As mentioned, it's Spa-Francorchamps. We head to the Ardennes Forest for what is going to be another classic race here at the AFVRC. We hope to see you there. Until next time, thank you very much, and good night!